Okay, thank you, Labi-san. Yes, good evening from Bangkok and distinguished participants. So my name is Chat Tep, or you can call me Ping. I'm the technical officer for the Article 6 Implementation Partnership Centers. Today, I would like to present the summary of ongoing activities and also some lessons learned from the implementing Article 6 activities. And also this session will also involve panel discussion from esteemed colleagues from different organizations presenting their activity on Article 6. So I just want to also mention that at the moment, our center is also developing Article 6 capacity building database. So the information you're about to see may not be comprehensive information. We will continue to update as much as possible. For this presentation, we are also covering the international organization that provides support to countries. And the information of this presentation is still at very initial stage, and we hope to be able to welcome your inputs and also incorporate them later. Okay, at this slide, you can see that there are several institutions providing capacity building support globally, such as like UNFCCC, World Bank, UNDP, Asian Development Bank, UNEP, CCC, and many more. And it is also to note that there are several ongoing capacity building in the voluntary market, such as like Article 6 Early Movers Program from Gold Standard, and also at the regional, in the upcoming Regional Climate Week. So the UNFCCC team will also conduct the hands-on training on carbon pricing, Article 6.2, 6.4, and also DNA forums for country, which is starting from next week at the African Climate Week. And also there are also capacity building work program on Article 6 that the UNFCCC colleagues here will be able to dive into detail of the activities. And another example you can see as is a partnership for market implementation from World Bank, which I'm sure you will hear more from the panelists here. Is to the project is to help support country to participate in the operationalization of the Article 6. Okay. In Asia Pacific, we have quite a lot of ongoing initiatives. So 3 projects led by GGGI, 2 from ADB, and 1 project each from GSZ, OECC, and also IGS. On the second item, there's a ADB usually convenes quite often regional roundtable workshop. And the second item is ADB conducted a workshop on carbon pricing for key policy makers in vulnerable group of 20 countries in Asia Pacific. This is like to provide them with knowledge on the latest state and trend of the carbon pricing globally. And the last one you can see here, just as the example, is a mutual learning program for transparency, which is like the reporting capacity building program under Article 6.2, involving a group of countries for the practical exercise of reporting. This capacity building used JCM as the case study and try to encourage the countries to ask questions each other. And the objective of the program is to deepen the understanding of the terminology, corresponding adjustment, and also share information of the institutional arrangement. Okay, the next one is the ongoing support in the Middle East and North Africa. So for MENA, we have captured 3 ongoing projects with GGGI, OECC, and GSZ. So as I said, like earlier, this is a very initial state, but we are pretty sure that there are many other ongoing initiatives, and we aim to update this information. Welcome additional information from you today. Okay. So in Africa, you can see here, we also have quite a lot of number of ongoing support from regional alliance, regional banks, and also other development partners. So during the panel discussion, so we will also have our colleagues from the regional bank and also African Alliance, who will provide more detail about the ongoing initiative in the region. Okay. The next one is the ongoing support for the Latin America. So in Latin America, you can see that these are ongoing efforts in the region, and we understand that there are other like bilateral cooperation support ongoing, which we will be incorporating in the future. And additionally, you will also hear about the regional activity from our colleagues from Pacific Alliance in the next few minutes. Okay, in terms of the lesson learned from the implementation of Article 6 activities, some of the lesson learned here we have captured from the experience sharing sessions from our partners in the previous meeting in the past. And so the first one is also like the partners mentioned about like limited understanding of Article 6 guidance, such as like the ITMOs and also the corresponding adjustment methods and also reporting requirement. So as the Article 6 can be really complex and complicated, the understanding of the guidance can be vary. The second one is another lesson learned was not only to identify the gaps in the understanding, but also to know what other countries are doing to prepare for Article 6. This is like to emphasize like the mutual learning peer-to-peer, why it is important, as is, you know, like can prevent the mistake and also reduce time and cost, and it perhaps like proceed like efficiently. And the third one is as the country has like each country has different of cultural and political structure as well as given like national context. So there is a need for tailored solution for each country engagement with local institution and an expert, and also the provision of support on continuous basis rather than isolated workshops. So there is no one size fits all. The first one is the lack of knowledge, including private sector, although like some may have really good understanding already in the host country, as well as the policy regulatory framework, strategy for the implementation of Article 6. So it is also important to promote the understanding of institutional arrangement of the Article 6 in the host country. So last one, so the capacity gap in each country, it exists. So there's a need to promote interministerial coordination, alignment of the Article 6 ambition with NDC, and also long-term strategy, and also building on existing infrastructure and institution. Okay, so as the implementation of Article 6 can also like stimulate like decarbonization market and also private investment. And the Article 6 implementation partnership, so we hope that we can also use for knowledge sharing, capacity building, and also enhance coordination amongst partners. So what we can do to facilitate the Article 6 capacity building, we hope that we can facilitate the understanding of Article 6 rule and also linkage with the NDCs. And we hope that we can promote the joint effort in building capacity, avoiding duplication effort, and also maximize the impact of the Article 6 implementations. And the third one is mutual learning. So at the moment, we have 69 member countries and also 32 institutions. So we hope that this can also tap into experience sharing and the best practices, and also lesson learned from other countries and institutions in the same or other regions. And lastly, we hope that we can facilitate the cooperation to effectively implementation of Article 6 and also to achieve our climate goal commitment. So I think that would be it from me. So I would like to hand the floor over back to you, Labi-san.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chetak. And good also that you acknowledged also from the beginning that this is not comprehensive list of all the initiative. We acknowledge that there is a lot of initiative and effort ongoing, and the role of the Implementation Partnership Center is to collect and to compile and to map all this kind of initiative. Also, we rely on the contribution of our partners. So please help us on collecting all this kind of information. So now I would like to go for our next step is a panel discussion, especially targeting the regional initiative. We will hear from UNFCCC, from World Bank, from West Africa Alliance, East Africa Alliance, and also from the regional development banks, such as ADB and EBRD, and also from the private sector, from AITA. To this, I think, Mr. Kazu, again, the floor is yours. You are the one who can master this one, so please help. And this is the floor is yours to moderate this panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Ravi-san, and also thank you, Pin-san, our centered staff who are working from Bangkok, Thailand. And yes, today's plenary meeting, one of our important focus is regional aspect. We think that this regional aspect could really one of the key to enhance the scale of this Article 6 implementation, as well as how we can help each other to replicate efforts. So for that, we have prepared this session, regional support for Article 6 implementation, and also we have a very distinguished guest today, we have colleagues from UNFCCC Secretariat, Perumal Armugan, from supporting Article 6 capacity building from the Secretariat, and also knows about the Article 6 negotiation process. And we have Harry Gach, Senior Climate Change Specialist from the World Bank. I hope they are here. Okay, just to make sure that everybody is here. So yes, so I saw the face of Perumal, maybe good afternoon, in Bonn, and Harry, and I also welcome all the panelists joining. Again, I just to also welcome maybe Osman Forza, coordinator of the West African Alliance, and also East African Alliance, Isaac. I saw you, so yeah, good to see you. And thanks so much for joining today. And we have Cristina Figueroa Vargas. I hope I can see you face, just to make sure you are here. And we have Virendra Kumar Dugar from ADB, whom also supporting Article 6 implementation from the bank. And also John William. Good to see you, John. Yes, from the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. And also we have Pedro from AITA, from the representing the private sector, also supporting regional activities. So again, our objective today is to think about what is the role of regional activities for the support of Article 6 implementation. Of course, we would like to hear from you that what you are actually doing in each region, and then what is your plan and activities. At the same time, your suggestions, again, based on our interactions, on what this partnership can do to enhance our more collaboration. So for this first, I'd like to start with asking maybe Perumal, University Secretariat, and also the World Bank, Harry. I have 3 questions. One is what is your plan for your regional activities for the Article 6 implementation, support, and capacity building? I'm sure you are covering all the regions, but at the same time, you are also engaging more regional activities. And I'd like to hear from you, what is your topics and priorities for the region this year and also next year. And also, I'd like to maybe taking this opportunity to ask what is your plan for any regional events coming up this year as well next year, and then how the partner can join to your initiative. So maybe first, I'd like to start with Perumal and followed by Harry.
Thank you, Kazu-san, and hello, everyone. I hope I'm audible. Yeah, I could see Kazu shaking his head. So thanks, Kazu, for the introduction, and happy to always contribute to the conversation within the Article 6 implementation partnership. UNFCCC from the beginning is part of this partnership, and we are quite happy in collaborating with this partnership. So from your first question in terms of the plan for the regional activities, like the UNFCCC has recently conducted until last week and until this Tuesday, the regional webinar on in terms of a precursor for the upcoming regional training programs that we are planning to do in the margins of all the regional climate weeks. So as you know that there are 4 regional climate weeks that are being planned, starting with Africa next week in Nairobi, and then the second event region, and in the end we are going to have the 4th training with the in the region of Asia Pacific in Indonesia. That will happen in the end of first week, beginning of second week in Indonesia for the Asia Pacific region. So most of the topics that we have been covering, like it's a 4-day event, and the last day will be dedicated for the as a DNA forum meeting for the CDM DNAs. So the topics that we are basically covering from a broader aspect of the elements related to carbon pricing before jumping into specific details on Article 6. So it has been spread around, like the day 1 covering on the carbon pricing issues, the carbon pricing and the NDC achievements, the purchase programs and tax and ETS hybrid, etc. Then within the first day, we are also covering the aspects related to the domestic consideration in the choice of carbon pricing, and introduction to the international compliance carbon markets, and then the voluntary carbon market. So in the 4 days, the first day is to touch the various aspects related to the carbon pricing elements. This is part of our SIACA project. So the first day would be the REDICAP program, under which we would be covering on aspects related to the broader carbon pricing elements. And then the second day, like we wanted to deep dive into Article 6.4, where it's basically covering aspects related to the national strategies for using international carbon markets for NDC achievement, NDC accounting implementation, and then part of how to identify the priority sectors and also for the authorization of ITMOs. That's one area where I think there's a large, huge demand that is coming from different individual countries in terms of looking at the implications towards authorization and then the subsequent corresponding adjustments that needs to be done. Then on the day 2 within 6.4 as well, like there's a huge institutional arrangement. There's a capacity that needs to be built within developing countries in particular to fulfill all the participation requirements, including establishing the necessary institutional arrangements. So that we would be covering. And then what we have noticed, like as on date today, we have about 50 plus DNAs that have been sent their nomination to the Secretariat for the Article 6.4. And what we have found is that 50%, either the individuals or the institutions which were the earlier CDM DNAs remains the same. So we will get into the comparison between the new and the changed elements for Article 6.4 when it comes to these institutions and the various requirements, including various new elements that has been included within the Article 6. And then the 4th activity within the Article 6.4 would be around the host party responsibilities and the various opportunities that lie for the host parties in terms of participating in Article 6.4. The day 3, we wanted to do it for Article 6.2 on cooperative approach, where we would be talking about the ambition, the various reporting requirements of what we have been adopted until Sharm el-Sheikh, and where we are with respect to our conversation and what might come in terms of various reporting requirements and the formats and the tables that would come out, which will cover the initial report, annual report, and the BTR. And then, like, we also want to get into the details on the Article 6 accounting for the different types and indicators of the different NDC. And then also to look at how to basically undertake, like, taking the table 4 from the structured summary and see that how this information needs to be filled in when we go with an GHG emission-based accounting with the CO2 metric. So we wanted to do it like a hands-on training in terms of people to do on how this accounting could be undertaken. And the last part is related to the tracking and reporting requirements related to registries and reviews, etc. Then the day 4 is a dedicated DNA forum, where the general updates and the outcomes from the various supreme bodies and the constituted bodies would be presented. And one dedicated session on, like, as on day to day, we have received the request for about 100 activities to transition. And the eligible activities as per the term decision is around 3,300. So we are now in 1st September, so we have 4 months left, and there are about more than 2,000 odd projects still have the opportunity to request for transition, and we wanted to make sure that people are sensitized that this is the first step towards transition, and then if you miss the boat by 31st December 2023, your activities will no longer be eligible as a transition activity under 6.4. So we wanted to elaborate to the DNAs in terms of giving them some kind of background around what kind of risks that they are looking at in terms of accepting such kind of transition request and how quick they need to act, etc., would be covered in that. And then a session that we are dedicating in the afternoon that also came as a possibly the demanding popular demand, I would say, in terms of asking for capacity building is on some kind of the overlap between the VCMs, the voluntary carbon markets, and the compliance market. And then, like, so here we are working closely, like, with to having a special technical session rather than as an formal training on the first 3.5 days that we are providing. So the second half of the last day, we are going to have a special technical discussion that we are working with BMWK, GIZ, and the 2 carbon market alliances in terms of how VCM can be used to implement NDCs, and also to look at the potential synergies and complementarities and the issues thereof within such interaction between voluntary and the compliance. So this is how that we have been planned to do this activity, and this will be done for the 4 regions this year. Going on to the next year, like, we would be based on the feedback that would be received from this, like, this will continue to happen on the regional basis. So we would be capitalizing or piggybacking with all the regional climate weeks in providing this regional capacity building to different stakeholders. Then the RCCs, the respective RCCs, are also working with various other things. Like, I think I heard earlier, Kazu, one of the panelists is also from IETA, so Secretariat is also quite closely involved with the BPMI that's going to happen in Côte d'Ivoire. And then we are doing for the GCC countries, GCC country dedicated private sector capacity building for a day in Abu Dhabi in the first week of October. Then we are getting quite a number of requests from specific countries on issues related to accounting and corresponding adjustments. And then many countries are looking at the article strategy development. And One of the things that we also, in addition to what we are generally doing, is to also to work with, we have been in conversation with a few countries from the North Africa and also in the Caribbean, with countries coming forward with their new updated NDC by 2025. Some countries have come forward with a positive list and negative list of activities for cooperation that they wanted to allow under Article 6. So what kind of implications it would have, and within their strategy development on in terms of their updating of their NDCs, where does the Article 6 play a role? So that's one area of work we have been in conversation with certain specific countries to begin with. Well, countries will be submitting by end of 2025 their updated NDCs, but we wanted to start that conversation in terms of looking at is the identified sectors and types remains the same, or if you are going to update your NDC, what kind of implications that you may have in terms of the future cooperation that you may be thinking of, or your current cooperation, or your participation in Article 6, 6.4. So these are some of the work streams that we are looking at. And then we are also trying to come forward with 3 or 4 countries from different regions to come forward with the blueprint in terms of their preparedness towards the Article 6 implementation. So this is pretty much that we are planning for dedicated country support, and we've been receiving requests almost every second day from different countries on different aspects. So we are trying to cater that. And then I might have updated in the last partnership meeting that we are in the process of having the regional carbon pricing experts in all our regional collaboration centers. For this meeting, I could say that for all our 6 centers, we have 6 regional carbon pricing and carbon market experts who's helping BON in conceiving different capacity building program, and also some direct country support where it is feasible. And also they are in conversation with various other agencies and entities who are also part of this partnership in terms of where we could provide those assistance. And then we are also getting some junior program officers from the countries to assist the work of the Secretariat in delivering the capacity building. So that is also happening. So pretty much, yeah, this is what I would say, that both from regional perspective and as well as specific country perspective, that this is all what we are going to do over the time of this year, next year, and until 2025. And the information that I said about the different coverage of topics within the regional trainings that will happen within the climate weeks, I would be sharing them after this meeting, and then I think this can be posted and shared widely within the Article 6 implementation partners. Thank you. Back to you, Kazim.
Thank you, Pelma. And yeah, just you mentioned that we also intend to provide such very comprehensive background information in our website. So now we have an agenda. It's already in our website, and there are several presentations already enough. So I'm sure Pelma will be sharing with those he mentioned, so that maybe later we will also inform you about those information. So, but I really appreciate Pelma's your all the opportunities and capacity buildings, and there are many topics that needs to be attention for this year. So very much thankful for that, and I'm sure that Regional Climate Week will be a really good opportunity for really interacting with the local level as well as the global level discussion. So I think region will really kind of link between the country level and the international level, try to link each other and then provide more capacity and also opportunity. So I'm sure that UNFCCC will be the backbone of this capacity building for Article 6. So we really count on your activities, and definitely will be try to support your activities and also try to be complement. Okay, just let me move on to the Hari, and then we'll come back on the last some key takeaways. So if you have any other things that you wanted to mention, maybe please come back. So, but Hari, so maybe same question like your plan in a regional basis, and what priorities and topics, maybe from the bank point of view, and any future activity that you are planning in any kind of event that you are also inviting for the partner, please.
Thank you so much, Kaju-san. I hope you can hear me as well clearly.
Yeah.
And also it was great to be part of the center and contribute to the delivery of the different agenda items that the previous session introduced. So in terms of the bank's support and involvement with Article 6, of course, like as we already updated in the previous events as well. So there are multiple delivery channels that the bank utilizes to support countries in different regions. For the primarily, as one of the slides in the earlier presentation mentioned, the global level. So we deliver this under the Partnership for Market Implementation Facility, PMIF, under which, of course, the PMI is the one of the major anchor program, and then which we are utilizing to support at the moment 17 countries across different regions, and primarily, of course, Africa, and then Asia and Latin America, and of course also the Asia Pacific. So of course, like there is also innovation pillar under the PMIF, of course, where we, as the name suggests, we do a lot of innovation and then do the piloting of different concepts, and do it at the different country levels, especially with the policy frameworks and infrastructure and etc. And of course, we also do an analytical part, I mean, an approach paper that many of you are already aware, and then also, of course, facilitating the dialogue between different countries under the climate market club. But especially for the regional support, as some of you may already know, the PMI has 3 windows, window 1, window 2, and window 3. Window 3 is basically where we deliver the support at the regional level. At the moment, under window 3 of the PMI, we have a regional programs for Africa, which has been happening for the last 1.5 years, covering mainly the West Africa and then Southern Africa at the moment at the regional level. But of course, like under this program, so we have 2 tracks, one at the regional track and then the national track. So regional track is mainly aimed to deliver the capacity building for different countries within that particular region. Again, responding to the specific needs of that particular region. But also under the national track, of course, like we go a little bit deeper into the different aspects of the Article 6. Mainly, of course, is assessing the gaps at the country level and also supporting the policy frameworks and then infrastructure, and of course also the capacity building for different stakeholders at the national level. But at the regional level, of course, we cover multiple countries and multiple actors, and then do the capacity building activities. So far, of course, like we did the such kind of capacity building in the West Africa region this year, and then we are planning to do the in Southern Africa very soon, and then similarly, of course, we have initiated the program for the Pacific region recently. Again, here we are coordinating with the other regional actors and then partners to ensure that we're not duplicating the effort, and then of course synergizing the efforts between different actors, especially, for example, in the Pacific region, Australia, CIPCOS. And then, of course, in the Africa region, of course, we are coordinating with both alliances, West Africa and East Africa Alliance, and also UNFCCC CRCC centers. Similar to that one, of course, we are also planning to do for the Caribbean as well this year. Again, the scope is almost similar to the other regions, where, of course, we do the capacity building to start with, and then to see if there are any specific needs of the individual country level, depending on the demand. In addition to that one, of course, the PMI has a very detailed technical work program under which we deliver this training and capacity building at the regional level. For example, this year also we did one such thing in Rwanda in the first half of this year, and then We of course planning to do something similar for the Latin American region during this fiscal year, sometime early next year. Again, talking about the Article 6 markets, but also to go a little bit deeper into linkages and then interactions with the domestic rating markets in some of these countries, of course, that are getting introduced, and also the voluntary markets. So that is, of course, is the one major topic actually of the interest for many of the PMI countries, where of course they are already introducing some kind of a domestic carbon pricing and also domestic rating. So how they basically interact with international markets and then voluntary markets. So that is the very important topic for us to work upon and then help countries to better understand that thing. And then in addition to that one, of course, we also have a different World Bank regional lending programs under which, of course, again, we are helping different countries to identify the potential for the carbon markets to the programs, and then helping them to, of course, monetize, and then, of course, at the same time build the capacity building. One such program is, for example, we recently the World Bank's board of is, of course, is considering the program for the East and then Southern Africa for the energy access program. It's a kind of a multi-phase program covering many countries, and then $5 billion of investment, and which has a very huge potential for the carbon markets. And of course, we are trying to help there to see how the regional approaches now can support the delivery of the program. And similar to that one, of course, we have a emission reduction program, what we call it is in the East Asia and the Pacific, where, of course, the idea is to help countries in the region to understand both supply and then demand dynamics of the carbon market potential within the jurisdictions, and then help them to matchmaking and then coordinate with the, of course, like realization of that particular potential. And as Ramal mentioned, of course, like we also work with multiple partners. Of course, UNFCCC for the regional climate peaks is the one great examples where, of course, we also participate and then showcase the work that we are doing in different regions. And of course, IHA, the BPP, BMI is one of the biggest to target the private sector that we are part of. Yeah, these are of course some of the activities that we are, of course, currently doing. And then in terms of of course, the priorities, as I mentioned, of course, one is the capacity building at the regional level that touches upon some of the key topics that are relevant for many countries on different aspects, like authorization is mainly the one aspect, and then also the infrastructure, and then the policy frameworks. Of course, the different partners are already helping many of these countries, but of course, under the 17 countries support for the PMI, of course, every country asks for this support on the policy framework and the infrastructure and then capacity building. But most importantly, also how to deal with the voluntary market aspects. So these are continue to be the top priorities for us also moving forward. And as I said, for this fiscal year that ends, of course, June next year, we will planning to, of course, deliver one such kind of regional for the Southern Africa very soon, and also, of course, the Pacific and also the Latin American region, the capacity building on Article 6 and then carbon markets in general. But of course, in addition to that one, of course, we utilize the regional climate weeks, the Innovate for Climate, I4C, and of course, and global workshops under the PMI. I'll stop here and then back to you guys.
Thank you for Haji-san again from the World Bank. And as you can see in the chat box, you can also look at the background presentation, which just Hari also mentioned. And also, I just wanted to mention that the recording is also, we also try to make this recording available for any follow-ups. And if you have missed any important information, so that you can also, again, come back and then listen. And I also look at one important point. You mentioned like a PMI, you have a window 3, which you can also provide some funding support for the regional activity. So I think this is probably, we can also kind of look at as new opportunities where the World Bank can provide further support for regional activities. And you have already, displayed so many activities that you are planning at the regional level. including BPMI, which I think later Pedro will be more elaborating. Yeah, I see already a lot of dots and connections we can see. So thank you so much, Harry. And then again, we'll come back on how we really strengthen our synergies and then try to enhance this implementation. So thank you again. And I'd like to move on to the next, which is regional alliances. And again, we have from West Africa Alliance, East Africa Alliance, and also Pacific Alliance. Thank you very much for all of you. And again, I just wanted to mention a few questions to both, which is since you are already engaging regional activities and already you have a member countries and you have already experience in implementing activity. So what are the advantages and also challenges at the regional level for the implementation of Article 6? I'd like to hear maybe some more challenges and some more kind of lessons that we can learn so that we can move on. And also any topics that you find it more priorities, or maybe including some sectors in your region, so that we know where your priorities are, and also how we can kind of enhance our collaboration of inter-regional activities. Again, that is, we also see one opportunities for this kind of partnership to really enhance more collaboration between different regions, and then how we can replicate good practices and even kind of exchange of the staff and so on. So I think that's from that angle I'd like to hear from you. So maybe I'd like to start with the Osman, if you're there.
Yes.
Hi, Osman.
Do you hear me, Kazu?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hi, do you hear me?
Yes,
okay,
I can hear you.
That's fine. Thank you very much, Kazu-san, for inviting us to share our experience of the West African Alliance. And for those who don't know it, the West African Alliance is a facilitative framework created by West African delegate since 2016 in order to facilitate active participation of West African countries on carbon market and mobilize also additional funding for NDC implementation. So to achieve this goal, we have, since its creation, we have implemented many activities in terms of technical preparation for active participation of our negotiators under the UNFCCC framework negotiations on carbon markets. We have been also implementing pilot activities to anticipate the operationalization of Article 6. I mean, for example, in some countries, we've been engaged with the World Bank on piloting the standardized crediting framework. We managed also to develop partnership in order to give opportunities for our member countries. We've implemented so far many peer-to-peer learning activities and try to raise awareness from policymakers, private sector, local communities by developing some policy brief and organizing workshop for them. We've managed to develop tools in terms of readiness for Article 6 operationalization with the blueprint that we have also developed. We have now recently engaged supporting countries by providing in-country support for readiness on Article 6 in some of the West African countries. And we are now willing to put in place an exchange platform, a web-based platform. Our website will be transformed into a platform, support platform for member countries, a kind of help desk that will give the opportunity to have a dynamic blueprint, readiness blueprint for Article 6. So we are also managing to give some technical advices for member countries who are engaged now on 6.2 agreement to government. And we also working very deeply in partnership with BPMI to organize a capacity building event. And we want to launch our West African Carbon Market Hub. And the event is scheduled in Abidjan 26 to 28 in we part of this this event, because capacity building is something that is really needed in our region. And if I refer to the communication made by Perumal and Hari from the World Bank, we are talking about regional capacity building program. But Africa is a big continent with more than 50 countries. So I think we should go beyond a regional approach and target sub-regions that have the same realities and commonalities. So I think it would be more efficient and more productive if we could focus more on sub-regions and see how best this sub-region can be targeted in terms of capacity building activities. So to respond to your question, you mentioned about advantages and challenges for regional approaches. In terms of advantages, we have many, and I think I will choose some of them. For example, based on our circumstances, the West Africa, in putting in place these regional approaches, we work on we will have a bigger market, because in West Africa we have more than 350 million inhabitants. So having this regional approach can help create a bigger markets, and mainstreaming climate change in the regional integration framework will help provide significant response to climate change and increase ambition in the sub-region. And most of countries are going in partnership with World Bank or the UNFCCC Secretariat to identify carbon pricing instrument. I think if you manage to have crediting mechanism combined with carbon pricing like carbon tax in some countries, I think it would be really a good opportunity and an advantage for our region. And also, regional approach can help us make our voice heard in negotiation and help to bring more fairness in carbon markets, mainly in terms of pricing and in terms of revenue sharing. And having this regional approach can help us address and overcome some financial and non-financial barriers that we see coming. For example, I can take the case of cross-border adjustment mechanism from EU that will for sure impact our economies. And if we manage to have some carbon pricing in our sub-region or a regional approach on that, it will help mitigate this risks, and also can help avoid market distortion in the sub-region if we manage to have a harmonized approach in the region. In terms of challenges, what from our experience, what we foresee as challenge, first is the different regulatory framework in many countries. For example, we have in West Africa some Anglophone countries, French countries, Portuguese countries with different regulatory or law system that need to be taken into consideration when you want to develop a sub-regional approach. So it's not impossible, but it's a bit challenging. Capacity also is an issue because we have different countries, we have different level of advancement. And as our principle is to leave no one behind, we must try to see how best we can engage with all of the countries. So it's really challenging, but we are doing our best to manage this. Access to finance is also something that is really important, because from private sector's perspective, before being able to implement a carbon project, you need to access to finance for upfront investment. So this is a big challenge that we have seen in the sub-region, and we are trying to see how best project origination can be overcome in the region. And in terms of political buy-in, for a regional approach, I think it is something that is really challenging, considering the awareness and understanding of this mechanism by the host countries. So it is something that we are working very hard. That's why in our alliance we have designated a minister as ambassador of our alliance to see how best he can raise awareness among his peers. Coordination of activities funded by partners. I think it's also, if we want to develop capacity building activities in our region and promote regional several type of activities in region, and we need a kind of harmonization to avoid duplication of efforts. So this is something that we are now trying to address in partnership with the UNFCCC RCC, because they are maybe the most suitable entity to facilitate this kind of coordination of activities from partners or donor countries. So in that regard, we are trying to put more focus on that. Concerning your third question regarding to thematic or sectoral priorities, I think for us, we acknowledge the important work that the platform has done in terms of peer-to-peer learning, but this need to be increased and diversified, and we add more working group packages. For example, we need to have more knowledge, more sharing of experience in terms of pricing. How can we bring fairness in carbon transaction, fair pricing system in carbon markets? So we need to understand, because we need also to take full advantage of this existing opportunity to facilitate the implementation of our NDCs. The second work package, the working group, we suggest to have more activities would be the governance issue. We don't have a working group especially dedicated to governance, but I think it is something that is really needed, because good governance can lead to good MRV system, good reporting, good tracking, and that is really needed in our countries. And if we could have more exchange of experience in terms of institutional arrangement, governance system in place, it would be really important for us. And last but not least, I already mentioned it, project origination, in order to better facilitate the engagement of the private sector. I think it is something that is really needed to exchange on, and also to see how best we can provide some risk mitigation tools so that private sector can be fully engaged, and activities could be really de-risky. So that's what I just wanted to share with you, based on our existing experience and our interaction with our member countries and the current challenges that we are now facing in West Africa. So I would like to end by suggesting as main takeaway for these regional capacity building activities to put more focus on sub-regions rather than regional. Regional activities are good, because if you target Africa during Africa Climate Week, it's a good thing, a good starting point, but we need to dig deeper and go beyond the region and target the sub-region. So I stop there. In case you have additional question, I can jump in again. Thank you, Kazu, for giving us this opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, Osman. Already you have mentioned the very important points, which I also wanted to mention. But again, I think the importance of this sub-region, I think that is also very clearly highlighted. And maybe this is something we should also explore, maybe through this partnership. And also, maybe I also want to mention maybe Regional Collaboration Center, which UNFCCC has its own 6 different locations. And you also mentioned that this could be also play an important role. And also mentioning about the private sector's engagement. Again, we think this is something also much needed in terms of generating more projects, generating more finance. So maybe later we'll have Aita, which also present their activities. So maybe that's something I'd like to also hear. But also thank you, Osman, as always. And I also maybe just jump on to the next our panelist, Isaac. And I'm sure you have also many experiences in the East Africa Alliance, and I'd like to hear from you. Maybe same questions as I just posed to Osman. Your current activities and the priorities, and also maybe challenges and advantage, please.
Thank you, Kazu. Can you hear me well?
Yeah.
Great. So my name is Isaac Reiser. I recently joined the East African Alliance, supporting the coordination of the activities within the region. We have 7 countries that are part of the alliance. Just briefly, we got this idea from the West African Alliance, and in 2019, put this forward to the different countries in the Eastern African region, and we've grown to 7 members. Overall, just like the West African Alliance, the idea is to support our members to be able to actively take part in the CDM to Article 6 transition, but also be very active participants in Article 6 implementation in order to achieve the NDC. And of course, with that, we've been able to carry out quite a number of activities. I'll mention just but a few. One that some of those that really stand out, we've done a mapping in terms of profiles for all our countries, covering what has been done up to 2021 in regards to CDM, the VCM, as well as Article 6 readiness, looking at what sectors, looking at the different credits, and of course the key players in terms of standards for the VCM and as well as the sectors. We've also supported members with different tools, capacity building, targeting both private and public sector, having roundtables for the different stakeholders to understand their pain points and how best to develop a better environment that will assist all the stakeholders in implementing Article 6. Some of the items we've developed there include an Article 6 blueprint for Uganda that we've shared out with all the other members to benchmark on, a CDM criteria that we've developed to help countries, have more or less a checklist building on what the UNFCCC proposals have been. And of course, carried out an assessment in terms of what technologies would be suitable for what sectors as countries are looking at implementing the NDCs, but also benchmarking on those that were effective during the CDM process. Overall, of course, peer-to-peer learning, support to take part in negotiations and be part of the conversation, some of the things that we've done. Looking forward, of course, one of the key issues we've had, or at least that has kept coming up, is around having regional or even local auditors and verifiers. Overall, there have been challenges around, onboarding and the capacity for countries to locally verify or even audit these projects, and that has always taken up a lot of the resources and making entry into the market a bit hard. So moving forward, we want to work towards training carbon market auditors and verifiers, support updating of standard baselines, capacity building around the different technical topics on corresponding adjustments, non-market approaches, and of course, even sector-specific training and MRVs. Now, quickly going through some of the questions that you've asked, starting with what we think the pros are in terms of a regional approach of implementing Article 6. Overall, this would be good in terms of increasing cooperation and coordination. we've noticed within the region, you find that a project developer that has had success in one of the neighboring countries definitely would be interested in carrying out the same in a neighbor, and this would help reduce transaction costs, help with flexibility. So looking at it from a regional perspective, if the frameworks that can assist with this, it would really improve the effectiveness of implementation of these activities. Some projects, those that, for example, are in the FOLU sector, some cut across regions, and you find that certain ecosystems are shared. So it would be very helpful to have, would support having, enhanced environment integrity, not just having one side of, one part of the ecosystem on one country well managed, and then the other on the other side a bit less managed. Other issues are around the same, looking at economies of scale and the like. And one other key point I would like to highlight is market liquidity. I think, for some of these, being able to pull together as a region will definitely attract more buyers as well as sellers, potentially helping with, stabilization of the carbon prices and the like. Just a few I would like to note. I know Usman mentioned one of these, definitely negotiation power, with that within the marketplace, but even within the international space, as having a regional bloc definitely increases the position of power in this case. In terms of challenges that Kazi, you mentioned you are really, really interested in, of course, we can't fail to note the difference in priorities for each country. So these might affect how the implementation of these interventions might come around. And if you go a deep further into a different sector, some sectors might align in a way or the other, for example, on energy and the like, but they might be differing if you go further deep into the sector level. And then ultimately the different levels of development. For example, in Eastern Africa, there are about 3 or 4 key players, or who have been key countries that have been active in carbon markets. And then there are those that we have also as part of our members that really, really lagged behind, having even one or less project, for example, under the voluntary carbon markets. So that disparity could definitely provide a lot of challenges. And then, of course, the difference in policy frameworks and the like. And then the issue of governance as well. Some of these might affect regional implementation, as you might find it very hard to find a regional bloc that has all the members that might be interested in a certain project, and also other issues that might arise there in terms of distribution of benefits, resolution of disputes and the like. I'll move on to the next question that is around the regional focus in terms of the thematic areas as well as sectoral priorities. So overall, from the updated NDCs as well as the different climate action plans in the region, one of the key sectors is the FOLU sector, given that from the assessments that have been done in terms of the inventories and the like, this has the highest emissions, so majority of the players are focused within this sector. And then ultimately coming in there as well is the energy and transport sectors. Albeit some improvements, as we know now, majority, for example, if I may talk about transport of the imports that we have within the region for cars are already second-hand cars, but we've seen a very, very interesting uptake in terms of electric mobility, particularly the two-wheelers. Has had some good uptake, as it doesn't really require a lot of infrastructure and the like. And then lastly, on the sectors, the West sectors also come out prominently. In terms of the thematic areas, mentioned earlier, the key role of the private sector, as these are one of the key drivers of us being able to implement Article 6, as well as overall ambition under our NDCs. The other is particularly on technology transfer, given that there's a similarity in terms of the focus in the climate actions around the sectors. So technology transfer and has come out as a key issue that most of the members in the region are looking at. And lastly, one that is already obvious to us all is capacity building, supposed to help in terms of project development, monitoring and verification, and the like. And then lastly, on what the partnership will, what we think the partnership would assist in enhancing regional collaboration, knowledge and experience sharing, particularly being able to facilitate peer-to-peer learning, strengthening what you're already doing, as already mentioned in the previous conversations around capacity building, having this workshops, trainings, and all this knowledge base accessible to all. Where possible, provide some technical assistance, whether at regional or even at country level. And also supporting the continuous dialogue and cooperation, as we know, this is really keeps us on our toes and helps us build trust and understanding of how other people are doing it and how best we can ultimately solve our problems. And then lastly, I think for me, one of the issues I would like to see, given that the partnership is really targeting regional, even sub-regional levels, if you may call them, pushing for tools and platforms that other regions can benchmark on, or even countries that are at that level, whether be it registries or at any other exchange platforms that others can benefit from, as this would really cut the cost and complexity of participating in the market implementation. Thank you, Kazu. Over to you.
Thank you, Isaac, for all the very great input, and I already see kind of way forward in terms of how we move, but I definitely see some kind of a how to fill the gap in terms of, as you mentioned, like disparities in the region, within the region, but at the same time, maybe some kind of a sharing of the tools or peer-to-peer could fill in certain gaps. And hopefully, I think that kind of a conversation could be further promoted through this partnership. We also understand that the region itself has their own activities, and then they have their very impact. But at the same time, there could be some kind of a complementary role that between the region can play. Hopefully, I think that is something we could first explore. But again, you know, with all the very good inputs, I just wanted to retain for now. But I also thank you for Isaac for all your input. And I also wanted to proceed to next again. Distinguished panelists from Christiana from Pacific Alliance, and again, I hope to hear from you some on-the-ground experiences, and also we also have the Francisco Pinto. He's also really engaging this Pacific Alliance. So thank you very much. And so maybe please first give the floor to Christiana.
Yeah, thank you, Kazu, for the presentation. Okay, I'm Article 6 negotiator and also the technical focal point in the technical subgroup on MRB on the Pacific Alliance. in charge of the working area specific in carbon pricing instruments. And here with me, supporting me, will be Francisco Pinto, the coordinator of this technical subgroup on MRB, just in case of any further questions. So first of all, I think I will give you a little bit of context of what is the Pacific Alliance. So this alliance was established in 2011. It's composed by Mexico, Colombia, Peru, and Chile. The four countries gather a population of around 225 million persons. And the technical subgroup on MRV emerged in 2018 as response to the Cali Declaration, and it's when the Pacific Alliance reaffirmed their individual commitments to the Paris Agreement. So this initiative includes, for example, enhancing measurement, reporting, and verification systems for GHG emission, as well as other pollutants, with a view of identifying possible carbon pricing instruments and maybe carbon markets mechanisms in the region. So just to answer your questions and go directly to the answers, we think that one of the advantage of this type of kind of alliance is that it's a trade bloc for regional integration with more than 12 years of operation. So there is an institutional platform to potentially exchange experience and implement, of course, Article 6. And it's an alliance where we are continually improving our transparency framework through MRB for the implementation of these carbon pricing instruments. And we already have some mechanisms in place to drive or trigger the implementation of this carbon pricing instrument, even between the countries. So this is one of the advantages that we have now. So we already have all the instruments, all the communications, maybe documents database, to exchange our experience and learn together through studies or consultancies. And as challenge, I can name a few, such as, for example, assess the costs and benefits of implementation of Article 6, especially because we are mostly seller countries. And we need, of course, a better understanding about how implement and evaluate correctly Article 6 safeguards and limits to see how we ensure and how we generate a robust carbon market, avoiding internal conflicts here in our countries and ensuring well-being of the environment and the local communities. And another challenge that I think is a key and maybe is a common thing in developing countries is the lack of professionals and funding. So we have mainly one professional that do many roles. So we don't have now the professionals for implement the whole carbon market. We are trying to deal with that, and it's one of the challenges that we are facing now. And now is maybe improvements, improve our institutional infrastructure. Our MRV is something that we are trying to do. Like Chile has more experience in the transparency framework, and that helps, for example, Peru, Colombia, or Mexico in their in creating their policies and MRV systems. We also need to improve our type of agreements, policies, IT systems, among other things. So we are constantly trying to improve our institutional infrastructure. Just in case of talking about thematic or sectoral priorities, as we are a diverse kind of countries, we have different sectoral priorities. In the case of Chile, for example, could be energy and industrial sector, but in the case of Peru and Colombia will be, of course, the forest sector, and that make us a little bit diverse, and our focus is more and implement the market more than choose a sector and focus in that area. But we can talk about working areas. So we have like 3 main working areas. One is about the mitigation activities when we try to enhance our transparency framework. The other one is about climate finance, where we're trying to search different ways and how to finance this implementation of carbon pricing instruments and other kind of instruments. And finally, this carbon pricing instruments working area itself, where we try to, of course, maybe generate some dynamics between the regional area and exchange some experience. For example, Huella Chile in carbon footprints serves as an example for Peru or Colombia and other kind of country, the other countries. And in the case of how the implementation partnership collaborate or help us at some point, one of the instances that we think and has been really fruitful for us is the organization of workshops in which experts from each country can participate in order to train and exchange experience, facilitating, for example, workshops on registry, safeguards, reporting is a possible alternative, but with the experts, with some experts to help us train our people, but with this focus, because for example, I'm an Article 6 negotiator and so in charge of carbon pricing instruments, but I'm not the expert in MRV or inventories. So we try to put each expert in the specific workshop that he needs to receive this capacity building. And it's also important to keep in mind that we don't have like enough professionals. So we have a rotation of professional often. So leaving out detailing in documents that I saw in your presentation at the beginning is really helpful to have this capacity building online and also documents, because make easier to capacitate in case we have new professionals are incorporated over the time and repeat instance maybe periodically. So in that case, we won't lose the knowledge in our institutions, is one of the things that I could say from the Pacific Alliance. And thank you.
Thank you, Christiana. So since Francisco is here, so if you wanted to say some few words, just to compliment Francisco, can I have some words from you?
Yeah, thanks, Casu. Just I would like to just reinforce some ideas. First, the Pacific Alliance is a commercial bloc, as Christina already mentioned it. And probably we will have 2 new members, Costa Rica and Ecuador. So we have this institutional platform between the countries. And I think there are a lot of opportunities for carbon market, where we have in place carbon pricing instruments in Peru, Colombia, and Chile. So we have some experiences. But we need support. Of course, there is a lack of resources, as Christina already mentioned it. So there are some good ideas. I think there is a sort of political will. But yeah, we need to reinforce technically our teams into our countries. 2 words are really important for us: convergence and harmonization. When we said that, we mean this is a need for our MRB systems, not only for the market, but also I mean in a broader way. We talk about climate MRB system because are related also with climate finance or mitigation actions. We can think even in inventories, but I think that is the easier part. But there are opportunities, and I think there is also an option to take advantage of the exchanges of experiences. So, for example, we had in recent past some exchanges related with Article 6 with Africa, with Osman there. Was super interesting for us because we extend our experiences between the Pacific Alliance and the West Africa initiative. So I think that there are opportunities. Same in the case of the World Bank. For example, in the case of Chile, we implemented our first carbon tax with the support of the PMI, the initiative before the PMI. So I think we can have some discussion related with that because we can go deeper through the Pacific Alliance because we have this technical subgroup on MRV in place. So I think we could take advantage of that. Thanks, Casu.
Thank you, Francisco. And again, thank you all the important points. And I just also wanted to mention that I also recognize the collaboration between Pacific Alliance and also West African Alliance, which seems to be a very good cases for other replication. So that is something we see some role that this kind of partnership could play. Even this time, we have already shared many good kind of knowledge and experience that has been accumulated at each region. And I also see many good new ideas and also even the resources issues like RCC is now recruiting new staff, as just mentioned by Perumal, and the World Bank through PMIF, they can also provide some new funding, again, new funding for these new regional opportunities. And of course, I'm sure there are many other partners, the countries, international institutions who can also support our idea, our capacity. So I just wanted to mention that there are many opportunities out there, which hopefully this partnership can enable to materialize. So thank you again so much. And I also recognize that time is also getting running because so much very interesting discussions going. But I also wanted to get some views from the those who can support us also through the regional aspects, which is the one from the Asia is the Asian Development Bank and the VK. And also we have John Williams from EBRD, and also from private sector is Pedro. So again, with this limited time, apologize for this, and but maybe you can just a little bit crisp in terms of delivering the question that what do you think will be the role of the bank or role of the maybe private sector in terms of supporting the Article 6 implementation in the region, and also what is the crucial element for really financing the projects or financing some activities, and what is your plan for the activity? So again, it's with recognizing some limit, but I just wanted to ask those few questions, and then some suggestions for this partnership is also welcome. So maybe start with VK. Muted.
Thank you. Yeah, it's wonderful to be here and amongst the colleagues. And this topic is really very interesting. And I'll be very quick. But in terms of the roles that the regional banks can probably play, I would like to build on that we have been doing in the past. And I think the two things very important. One is to bridge the gap in capacity deficit. That's what the role the MDBs can probably play, because we are in the process of transition from Kyoto to Paris, and also there's a landscape of carbon market opportunities coming up, and countries are trying their best to wrap their head around how to take advantage of the market. So this is where institutions like us can come and support the countries in a number of ways, including some of the alluded by my previous speakers. And the second thing is also to facilitate mobilization of the carbon finance, which is very important. We as a development finance institution, we are trying to scale up climate finance and climate action in the region. And in that context, it is very important that development institutions are able to catalyze those investments by mobilizing carbon finance, so that countries are able to overcome those barriers for the implementation of low carbon technologies and solutions. So on the capacity side, I'll build on what the colleagues have just said. We can support countries, and we are supporting countries like ADB as Article 6 support facility, where we provide upstream, midstream, and downstream support for policy development, institutional infrastructure, developing pipeline of projects, and also providing handholding support to individual projects. So the idea is to help countries to enhance their readiness to participate and take advantage of markets, but at the same time developing a pipeline of projects that could be brought to the market for the monetization of carbon assets. I think this is very important. The crucial elements to my mind would be that the countries do have robust frameworks, clear guidelines for their participants, for different ministries. There is the proper internalization of the rules and also the opportunities that exist in the market. So countries need to have a proper thought through market strategies, and that's what we are working on, how to take advantage of different carbon market opportunities are coming, whether those under Article 6 or instruments like JCM or also CORSIA, VCM, so and so forth. So I think it's very important countries are able to look at carbon market not in isolation. This is very important for countries in Asia and the Pacific, that countries do look at international carbon market opportunities as a part of their broader carbon pricing strategies, and also look at carbon pricing strategies as a part of their broader climate policy architecture in the context of achieving their NDC targets and enhancing their targets, raising the ambition over a period of time. So therefore, it is very important that countries do have proper strategies, proper framework, which are thought through, which are developed with proper consultation with the ministries. At the same time, they have a robust infrastructure. Corresponding adjustment is a very important element. So countries do need to really make proper arrangements so that the integrity of the market can be preserved, and this is going to be very, very important. So I think there are a number of things that we are doing. I mean, we have established Article 6 support facility, through which we are doing two things. We are providing capacity building and technical support at the regional level, or also we are working on at the country level. So since the question is about what we are doing at the regional level, like what we have been doing, like it was mentioned, and thanks for the mentioning about ADB's work. We conduct ADB roundtable on Article 6, whereby we try to bring in Article 6 negotiators and policymakers, and to discuss some of those critical issues in run-up for important events like for the upcoming COP. We will be convening one again. Then we conduct regional training on carbon pricing. It's a 4-module training program that we have developed, and we have already run 2 iterations of this. We start with climate policy architecture, we come down to carbon pricing, we look at carbon markets, and finally we look at Article 6. So we will be running another cohort in September, October. We're very happy to include as many people, and we'll notify other partners here. So that is the second thing. And third thing that what we are looking for this year is also convening a discussion around the topic of the emerging landscape of international carbon market opportunities that I mentioned. Countries are a bit confused at this point in time how to deal with different opportunities that are coming, whether those are compliance market, voluntary market, or JCM and CORSIA, and how to kind of prioritize what kind of rules they need to make, what kind of capacity they need to build, or what kind of guidance they need to provide, including to the private sector. Let us recognize once again that the climate action requires participation and investments by the private sector, and in that context, the carbon markets are going to be a very important place and very important stream through which we can catalyze investment from the private sector. So, to my mind, private sector would also be looking towards the respective governments how to kind of prepare themselves or take advantage of carbon markets. So this will also be something very important. So we would like to convene a conversation around this topic. So, I mean, in addition to this, we'll continue to work policy development, support institutional infrastructure, and also conducting pilots. Once again, the idea is that we are able to develop a pipeline of projects which can actually bring carbon finance. Or as a development finance institution, we also see our role to kind of send a price signal to the market by structuring some of the innovative transactions that can kind of crowd in private sector investments the real projects and also in the carbon market space. So in the interest of time, I'll stop here. Very happy to engage further and answer any questions. Kaju-san, back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Wike. And I definitely see that regional banks such as ADB could really organize more regional level activities, and also we also expect like a pilot project. I think there are also mentioned like some other alliances, like they're also looking at some project, real project, and also pilot support. I think the regional bank also can support, and where we can build on those new idea and the new capacity. So again, capacity will be built based on the actual project, based on the actual activities engagement. So with that respect, I think it's definitely needed such kind of a pilot project or new projects. Then we can really think about how to do it. So again, thank you very much, and we look forward to further discussing on that. So let me move on to John Williams, and again, maybe just recognizing some time, and I wanted to maybe to be very crisp, but maybe some of your expectations for these regional activities, and then priorities, and some of the activities that EBRD has been planning for the coming future. I think that'll be something I'd like to hear. So,
thank you, Kazu. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear.
Okay, good. Thank you, and yeah, congratulations with your new position, and also very welcome for Japanese leadership on the Article 6 developments. So all very good stuff. Let's say, yeah, I had prepared a presentation. I will do it now verbally because that seems to be the standard, but I will send it after the meeting so you can upload it on the website. But just as we have a global audience, so the EBRD is a multilateral development bank operating all the way from Eastern Europe to Mongolia. We're also active in Turkey and the Mediterranean, and we have countries of operation in Northern Africa at the moment, like Morocco, Tunisia, and Egypt. And let's say earlier this year, our board have decided that we can expand the number of corporate, let's say, countries of operation to sub-Saharan. So there are conversations ongoing. We also have a delegation coming week in Nairobi at the Africa Climate Week, also to see what developments we can support there. So that's a bit the context. We're very private sector focused. Over 70% of our business is in the private sector or with the private sector, and we were one of the leading banks in climate finance. Let's say one of the biggest investors as well in renewable energy. For example, in Egypt, we financed one of the largest solar projects in the world, the Benban project. So that by means of introduction. So our region, particularly the Eastern Europe and the former Soviet Union countries, they remain to be very energy efficient and carbon intensive. So in that sense, our region would offer substantial reduction potential, and I think that's a key one in developing carbon markets, because the carbon markets are there to cost efficiently reduce these emissions. Yeah, so and I want to make the connection to basically the carbon markets and the climate finance question. So as you know, there's this estimates being done that we need the trillions to invest to be able that countries align themselves with the objectives of the Paris Agreement. We have made an estimate for our current region, and we see that the gap to close is about 400 billion a year. over until 2030 and beyond. And at the moment, as EBRD, in fairness, if I say we do in excess of 5 billion of climate finance a year, but it's by far not enough. So we need to leverage more. We need to engage the private and mobilize the private sector more. And again, carbon markets play an important role in shifting the balance, so to say, by a carbon price from, let's say, towards the green technologies, and then in the process also, let's say, doing the right climate resilient investments. So that is going to be quite a challenge. I see Article 6 as one of important drivers to help to realize that. I think that the relying on let's say ground climate co-funding from developed countries is probably not going to deliver what we need, and so we need market mechanisms to help to close the gap. And yeah, so and also it's a mechanism that is understood by the commercial sector, by the private sector, and yeah, we can further leverage on that. So it's important. So we like, and we have been doing let's say quite a bit of capacity building work in past, but we also did in past quite a bit of actual carbon transaction work as well, and it's that combination, I think, that is most effective. So we are willing to work with partners on doing both things at the same time. So developing a carbon transaction, enable the capacity building, but then importantly, with our financial capacity, we can leverage the carbon transaction proceeds towards bigger investments at the scale needed to deliver on the NDC, but also then deliver enough reductions for ITMO transactions. Importantly, and VK, I think referenced that as well. Yeah, we need to see Article 6 in a very broad suite of carbon market and climate finance instruments. And in our region, we have so we also have EU countries in our region, like Poland and Czech, Romania, Bulgaria. So we need to look at all these developments in a broad context: domestic emissions trading schemes, VCM. There's the CORSIA scheme, of course. We don't know yet what will come out of the IMO, but that may also lead to some form of a market mechanism. And when we talk to the governments we work with, people are quite confused, yeah, as to where to go, how to go about it, etc. So what we do, and we already have done that in a couple of countries, we help them to try to scope out a logical scenario. And for example, we have done one for Uzbekistan, where we lay out, okay, what could be a logic path, considering how the economy is structured and built out. I think the MDBs, including us, we will increase our support a lot in the coming years towards also long-term strategies and NDC updates. And here we need to ensure that there's a close connection to the Article 6, let's say, relationship, because of course, if you export credits, then it goes out of your NDC, and so you need to work. And then also, what is the role of Article 6 in kickstarting markets at scale for climate technologies? The larger the markets, the cheaper the technologies will become. they're being deployed, and I see an important role for Article 6 to play that role. Now, in all of that, the risks to be managed. You could well imagine that a developing country at first sells and then maybe falls a bit short, so then they need to buy to match up their position or to balance their position. And it's really about the risk management and the political, let's say, discussions around that as well. And here I think there's a new era emerging for carbon management, and it would indeed be good to further some work on that. But as I said, our key is to, at the moment, to look for the transactions that sponsor energy efficiency, renewable energy, methane emission reductions, etc., at scale in the countries, and then where part of that financing package is leveraged by carbon transaction proceeds. Just to give a few illustrative examples, we're working on Article 6 in Ukraine, in Turkey, in Kazakhstan, in Georgia, and several, increasingly a number of countries coming to us and asking for support and advice in these areas. And I think what is also important, again, is the integration with the long-term thinking, the long-term strategies, as that will also then help to identify baselines, target baselines, on which basis the reductions can be qualified. Let me close with saying that international partnerships like the Article 6 international partnership are very, very important. You have a key role to play, but there are also other partnerships, and I would encourage, for example, that, and I'm happy, Kazu, after this meeting, that we touch base, for example, that there's also the Coalition of Finance Ministers for Climate Action. And I think seeking the connection with finance ministers is going to be very important in this discussion. And that's a carbon pricing has emerged as number 3 or 4 of the priority list. So I think that there would be an interest to perhaps do a joint event with the finance ministers, because they are very, very curious. They only can think in tax mode, and then we come and say, no, you can do it, let's say, in a trading mode as well, and it achieves even better results. So I think that would be good to explore as one of the activities. And yeah, we are happy to invite the partnership to events that we are planning for in the coming months on a more regional or national basis as a result of the capacity building work that we are carrying out. I leave it at this. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And I take many good points. I think particularly around capacity building transaction together and linkage with LTSDs and risk investment, risk management, and maybe also opportunity to enhance to the other parts of this financing ministers. And then we're happy to, creating more opportunities for our partners. So maybe looking forward to further discussing how this partnership can really enhance more opportunities. So thank you. And finally, just wanted to move on to Pedro for AIDA's activities at the regional level. Again, when coming down to the private sector, then we heard many, importance with in terms of actions at private sector, and then how that could be communicated, and also between the regulatory scheme and then private and so on. So Again, just to leave it for you to maybe sharing your current plan, and then any regional activity that we can further extend our collaboration. So yeah, and also recognize time is already kind of running up. So appreciate you have a very short maybe remarks, and then we can move on. Thank you. But Pedro, please.
Thank you, Kazu-san. It's a pleasure to be here with such a team of knowledgeable experts and collaborate with Article 6 implementation partnership. So I will try to be brief. So just as a quick introduction for those that don't know AITA, we are a private sector nonprofit association with over 300 members involved in all parts of carbon markets and geographies, and we basically work to promote high integrity market-based solutions for climate solutions and international markets. So in terms of the potential of the private sector in this process of operationalization Article 6, I would say that the private sector can go a step further and also provide products and solutions that can address the bottlenecks that countries faces. So, for example, we have the possibility of providing registries and MRV tools, insurance products, even if you consider, for example, rating agencies to not only increase financial flows to Article 6 implementation, but also to promote more ambition and environmental integrity. I think these are really important aspects that the private sector can play a role. Also, in terms of financing, I would say that it's important to consider that the level of public debt is high. So after a series of crises that we had worldwide, it's not easy to have money at our disposal, so to invest in mitigation projects. So I would say that governments need to consider the potential of B2B funding to help them in achieving their NDCs, and some alternative possibilities to address this would be to create carbon pricing instruments that eventually incentivize the private sector to buy and sell ITMOs under Article 6. So we have examples already, like with the case of Switzerland and Click Foundation. Another alternative would be to create programs in which the private sector could help host countries in investing in mitigation projects, and also receiving a share of the mitigation outcomes and increasing the access of host countries to private capital at a lower cost eventually. So I would say that these are just a couple of examples, but of course, like there is no one solution fits all, and we need to understand what happens in each geography to see how can we best address these issues. So in terms of capacity building, we have our BPMI program, which basically tries to complement the World Bank's program by bringing international private sector to engage with local private sector in different geographies. So we build on our experience from the time of the PMR. So back in the day of the PMR, we used to have the BPMR, which is the business partnership for market readiness, or nowadays implementation. So in the past, the scope of this program was a bit more narrower, I would say. So more focused on domestic compliance systems and how we could support in the implementation of the system. Now we are thinking much more in the interplay of the markets, considering like how the voluntary carbon market can build the expertise and the infrastructure to eventually help countries to develop their compliance systems, but also engage with Article 6. So what we are adopting under this program is basically we are focusing on specific countries that could and regions that could eventually become the reference for other countries around. So today we have as key targets Indonesia, Brazil, and West African countries. And our approach is basically a step-by-step approach. So we try to firstly understand what's happening in the country and the level of knowledge about carbon markets, to gradually evolve in this capacity building program together with the local actors. Then what we try to do is to develop the guidance materials in this process, webinars, workshops, which we could start to dialogue with different parts and stakeholders, parts of the government and the stakeholders. I think one key aspect here is also like not consider only like the national or the federal government, but also the subnational government, essentially when we are discussing the implementation of carbon markets and Article 6 in large countries like Brazil, for example. So we are also considering this, and then also understand that there is also already a local knowledge that is being developed through local initiatives, and we don't want to overlap with these local initiatives. So we try to create coordination with these local initiatives. As an example, we have the case of Brazil, for example, also that we have already a lot of organizations that are discussing carbon markets, mostly focused on the domestic side. But what we try to do is basically to create a committee of initiatives with the heads of each initiative to ensure that what we are doing is being done aligned and with synergies, and then we can clearly understand the landscape in terms of capacity building in the country and how it can complement each other and build synergies to move forward faster and more efficiently in this process. And finally, like I think one key aspect also of this program is basically to connect the local actors with international actors. So not only like the private sector actors, but also the public sector actors. So what we try to build here is a dialogue where we not only share the best practices, but also we inform the policies that are being developed in a way that the decision makers and the technical teams of the government, they can understand what are their options. We know that there is no one solution fits all, but I think it's important to bring the experience from abroad and show to the local actors that are involved in these processes how they can build their strategies and how to work in parallel, considering all the opportunities that carbon markets can provide for governments to achieve their climate commitments. So in terms of regional collaboration, I would like to highlight what our colleague already brought here, like Usman. It's a pleasure to have you here as well. Like, and we are interacting really closely with West African Alliance in the development of this workshop with West African countries that is called the West African Carbon Market Hub. So what we want here is basically to discuss the challenges and opportunities with the international private sector to build the local capacity and inform the governments that are developing their policies, to also be able to develop a roadmap with key actions to increase engagement with Article 6. So we want to make this West Africa Carbon Market Hub a regular event, annual event, where we could have a document that we could work against and a commitment from the local countries, the regional countries, in the key actions that we need to prioritize. So this is in a nutshell, really quickly, what we are doing. But as key takeaways, just to finalize, I would say that it's considering all the experience that we have in these programs, I would say that coordination is key, not only between different scales, for example, subnational, national, regional, and international scale. We need to understand that there is no one language fits all, and to reach the international level, the people on the ground actually that are capable to develop it, some projects, we need also like different partners. So to understand what would be the key partners here that could implement the capacity in each scale, I think is also super important. Thinking that we are not capacitating actually the actors that we will implement, but maybe we are capacitating the actors that will help us in this capacity building process. And then in terms of Article 6, I think it's important to think that it's the ultimate goal, but we always need to consider the different specific circumstances of each context, and that carbon markets are also a moving picture. So this dialogue needs to be an ongoing dialogue and always adapting to the changing circumstances. So this is what I would like to bring to the discussion. But once again, thank you for the opportunity, and happy to collaborate further with you. Thank you, Cassio.
Thank you, Pedro, again, once again, for all the good work that AITA is doing. And again, maybe we would be learning from you in terms of implementation at the regional level, which I think you started new initiative, and then hopefully that could be expanded to other regions. And then maybe that could be a good practices in terms of interaction between the private sector and the government and framework, in order to accelerate the implementation of Article 6 and carbon market in a more broader sense. So maybe looking forward to further, kind of stimulating our discussions, and also together with our partners to extending. Again, many are also mentioning about private role of importance of the private sector and then private finance. And then we have all the partners here. So important things how to bring the new initiative forward. So again, thank you so much, all your input. So let me just finish here. And again, just to mention that we will be upload all the background presentation and then share with you once all are there. Some of them are already in the website, and the recording is also available. At the same time, we will be also summarize today's discussion and then also share with you. Again, as I mentioned, there is a newsletter which we are planning, and then try to summarize our discussion, then also identify some new areas, and then something that we could consider for our future consideration of the activities through the partnership. So with that, I'd like to thank all of the distinguished panelists for joining today, and it's been a very great discussion, also great experience, and also this itself could be a really good capacity building. But at the same time, we need to really put into the practice of our work. So again, thank you so much, and I pass over to Ravi-san, whom are waiting for a long time to finalize this discussion. So, but thank you very much for everybody.